Hello and welcome to Business at Citywatch. I am Michael. We are with Drew Blumenthal of
Digital Drew SEM.
We're going to talk a little bit about marketing and how to get the best bang for your buck with regard to that. I'm going to start, I think, with a question for Drew specifically. Give me an idea. How long have you been at the marketing game? And give me your perspective just briefly on it.
So I've been doing digital ads for over 5 years. So I started working for large ad agencies in 2016. And then I really went off on my own in 2017 and started freelancing and building my own company, just doing this full time. So honestly, I've been doing this since I graduated college. So digital marketing and advertising is the only career that I've had.
Okay. I want to go a little bit about how it's changed in the last couple of years, especially in the age of COVID and everything else. But how do you think marketing has changed today versus the way it was when you started a couple of years ago? And has the COVID situation had a lot to do with that, or has marketing basically been marketing and that's it?
Yeah, so, I mean, this year AI has really come to surface, but I feel it's definitely changed things a lot over the last couple years, meaning that everything is automated, meaning when you're running ads, your bidding strategy is automated, who the targeting is becoming more and more automated. Like, for example, in Google Ads, they're really pushing a campaign called Performance Max, which automates where the ads are shown, whether it's search or shopping or display. So it's just being able to understand and manipulate the algorithms is really, really becoming big. And even with COVID, more and more people are becoming digital, which has actually made the landscape even more competitive. So, for example, if you've been running ads, you might notice more competitors in the space. So what it's really doing and forcing people to do is either level up their websites, level up their audiences and targeting and all of that. So that's definitely the biggest shifts that I've seen in the last couple of years.
If you're a small business or a mid-sized business, or even if you're just getting started, what's the best way to approach this? Are you thinking, let's approach it completely from an automated point of view, or are you going to try and put your own personality into it, or how does that work?
Yeah. So if you were a small business just starting out with it, one is before you start marketing and advertising, really focusing on having a high quality website, making sure that you have good imagery, making sure you have conversion tracking set up, like all important things in order to be set up properly. So while it does cost money to have an expert, it's very easy on your own as a small business to end up wasting your budget and not getting results. So although it's expensive to hire a freelancer or an agency, spending even a couple $100 on it can really make a difference in terms of your results at the end of the day.
If you are a small or mid-sized business and you're aiming toward a market with everybody else, as you said, it's highly competitive, what's your strategy? If you're a small business, are you looking at this saying, I want to saturate what I can saturate, or am I taking a surgical approach to it, or how am I looking at it?
I would figure out who within that niche I can go after, because you're not going to win based on volume or traffic. So trying to figure out what niche can I really get into within what I do. So whether it's like search or you're doing social media, like really targeting your message based on a value proposition of the market that you could really get. Because sometimes what people do when they're a small business is they say, I want to target this and that and do 1,000,000,005 things at once. And then by focusing on just areas and little niches that you could really do very well and focus on, you're going to see a lot better results on focusing on that quality rather than trying to go after quantity.
Okay. I want to talk about quality and quantity a bit, but first I'm going to take a break. We're going to talk to people a little bit ourselves, and then we'll come right back to you. City Watch on the Air, heard locally and worldwide on iHeartRadio.com, takes you through the ins and outs of business, exactly what your business needs to showcase your product or service. And we can do it for as little as $10 a week. If you don't believe me, text PROVE IT to 310-291-2790. That's PROVE IT to 310-291-2790. Okay, we're back with Drew Blumenthal. Drew, we were talking a little bit before the break about how business people can aim their marketing strategies towards people. Talk to me a little bit about how a small to mid-sized business can look at, say, a marketing niche, whatever that niche might be, and actually crack that, because there's so many people, as you said, who are trying to just throw money at something, and that is, as you know, the kiss of death of your small business. You throw some money at, pretty much it's gone, and you don't have anything else to work with. Give me an idea on how to surgically aim that at whatever your target might be.
Right. So first, I would try writing it down, really spending some time thinking about your past conversations, thinking about what you do well, and then start to do some Google searches on it. Start to look at the web to see, if I went after this niche, are there ads on it? Who would I be competing against? Making sure that there are relevant searches around what you're specifically trying to go after, because Google will even make recommendations and say, oh, you should search for this similar keyword or this. So use the internet. And another place that you could go to do great research for free is YouTube. So if you search for something that you think is a great niche, see what kind of videos come up. See what people are actually typing into YouTube, because you will get recommendations in terms of what people are searching for. Another free tool that I've used before to do market research for free, because I also have paid tools as well, is a website called Answer the People. So Answer the People is actually a great website where you could go in and you can type something in, and it'll show you the exact questions and the exact queries that somebody's typing in, and then you'll be able to see what kind of niches should I be going after, and then you could build your website around it, you could build ads around it, and really figure out, this is the kinds of niches that I want to go after, where I can actually serve the people well and actually know that there's volume around it as well.
Okay, now I'm going to play devil's advocate just for a second here. You mentioned Answer the People and looking at YouTube. I've talked to people privately and publicly with regard to looking at the trends on YouTube or looking at the trends on things like Answer the People, and some of their opinion come back to me saying, well, by the time everybody is on a particular topic, or by the time something starts to trend, it's too late. Are we looking at that, or is that just their take on it, or what are we thinking?
I mean, I wouldn't go for things that are instant trends. So there's trends where it's going to be gone in 6 months. What I'd look for are things that are here to stay, and things in your industry or in your niche that you can address, that you know in 6 months to a year will not be gone. So it's like, are these long-term problems that you're trying to solve? Are these things that, for example, if it's a meme or things like that, those are things that are going to be highly buzz, highly trend things. Even with social media platforms and things like that, they rise and fall. So it's just, I would, when you're doing your research, really have that in the back of your head, where if you see a huge surge, is it something that you feel, and again, no one has a crystal ball to fully know, but is there enough intuition, or if you look at the trend and you see the curve go up very, very quickly, that's usually an indication showing that if it's a very quick rise, there's going to be a very quick fall as well.
Okay. And based on your experience on this sort of thing, how long should a business, especially a small business versus a medium or whatever, look at the trends before they actually start to get their feet wet and get into it? Should they give it a lot more time? Should they jump into it while it's hot? What should they look at?
I mean, I look for long-term trends over short-term ones. So if you see something where the surge is 6 months or longer, that could be a much better trend to look into rather than something that you could see in a month it shoots up and all of a sudden it goes from 0 searches a month or 0 queries a month to thousands. So I would go after longer-term trends rather than short-term, unless you could get a website built within a matter of days and because this stuff takes time, especially if you're a small business and you don't have a ton of resources. If you try and go for the quick trend, by the time you have the website built and by the time you have everything in place, that trend's going to be gone.
Mm-hmm. Okay. On that, I think we'll take our last break, come back, and then do a quick follow-up here before we have to let Drew go. We'll be right back. Citywatch on the Air, heard locally and worldwide on iHeartRadio.com, takes you through the ins and outs of business, exactly what your business needs to showcase your product or service. And we can do it for as little as $10 a week. If you don't believe me, text PROVE IT to 310-291-2790. That's PROVE IT to 310-291-2790. And we are back with Business at Citywatch. We've been speaking with Drew Blumenthal, and I thank you, Drew. This has been quite interesting for me. I'm going to ask you this one last question, then maybe we'll go through a couple of follow-up things. What's your feeling about the best way, and we've been talking about this sort of in general, but specifically, what's the best way for a business now, small or medium, to get the best bang for their advertising bucks? What should they be doing?
Right. I mean, like I said, I still say number one is the website. So no matter what you do, having a good web presence is important. I mean, number two then is making sure you have good social media pages. So that's the next thing to invest in, because if somebody even Googles you, those are what's going to come up, your social media platforms, your website. So establishing those bases first and then going into advertising. And again, what could do better for ads really depends on your business, because Google Ads works great, but you need to bid on keywords that are relevant for your business. And if you're in a unique area where a lot of people aren't searching for the exact keywords that relate to your business, then it makes sense to do social media ads. So that's really how I would go about it and approach it in terms of strategic thinking.
Okay, and you mentioned earlier YouTube. We're talking to people who are also in things like media. They're in podcasting. They're also in video podcasting, and they have shows that are going to be on the market pretty soon. Are we talking about the same sort of strategic spike toward that as well?
So, again, every industry is different. So, if you're doing a show, kind of Googling what competitors are doing is helpful. So if you're doing a podcast, for example, deciding, do you want the podcast to be on Spotify? Do you want it to be on Apple Podcasts? Do you want it to be on iHeartMedia? And trying to figure out where is the best placements for things, and then building the profiles on there and deciding, can I run ads to it? Does the platform run ads? One thing too is there's not a cookie cutter approach to this, and that's where kind of understanding your market and really doing that strong competitor analysis and then trying to go head on onto the right platforms and building the right presence and trust on that platform is the way that I would think and go about it.
Okay, and this is the sort of thing that you do all the time, I take it, yes?
Exactly, yes.
Great. Okay, Drew, for those people who would want to get in touch with you and maybe ask a few questions, how would they do that?
Sure. You can find me on my website, digitaldrewsem.com, and you can also find me on Instagram at digitaldrewsem.
Okay, Drew Blumenthal, thank you so much for being with us on Business at Citywatch.
Yep, thank you for having me, Michael.
And as for the rest of you, remember, believe in yourself. If you don't, no one else will. And we will see you next time.